Welcome to Almost Here, Round the Corner Future Technology podcast with Richard Jacobs. Future technologies poised to transform our lives for better or worse are the focus of this podcast. Almost here means these technologies are now here and starting to be used, or just around the corner, from Bitcoin to artificial intelligence, 3D printing, blockchain, virtual reality, and more.
Hello, this is Richard Jacobs with the Future Tech Podcast. My guest is Ben Hindman. He's the CEO and founder of a company called Splash. Their website is splashthat.com. Ben, how are you today?
What's going on, Rich?
Yeah, not much, just podcasting with you. But so tell me about Splash. What's the premise of the company?
Sure. So over here at Splash, again, splashthat.com if you want to check it out online. We've built a pretty sophisticated event marketing software. We call it event automation. The idea behind it is that we are really trying to create more predictability and kind of more, candidly, more revenue out of what is traditionally a very serendipitous occasion, which are business events. We built a whole suite of tools to drive in-person marketing, as we call it, and it's fully integrated into your suite if you're using other pieces of technologies or other CRM. So that's what we do here.
Yeah, I put on events myself. So, one side is getting people interested.
Any good ones?
On cryptocurrency, beginning of this year. So, but it wasn't easy, So we had to get people to buy tickets and come. We had to get them interested. We had to get speakers.
It's the hardest thing, man. It's so hard. Yeah. It is. Event planners, event marketers. They are truly my heroes. These people, and I'm one myself. I throw a ton of events. It takes so much time, so much energy, but also it takes, a lot of emotional investment. You got to get people really excited about something. So
exactly.
We see the industry changing a lot, and that's why we're building the technology that we're building.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you. So what aspect of the events does the software help you with? If it helps you with everything, that's great. But, can you break down like what specific things does it help you with and how?
Sure. So, at a core level, we believe that, the biggest ingredient in terms of planning an event and planning a great and a meaningful event is getting the right people in the room. So to get the right people in the room, we've built invitation software. We built a beautiful landing page and registration experience. We built the ability to send, a cadence of reminders and automated emails, as well as all the kind of push and promotion and kind of really designing up and making all that look very on brand as you hit all the different channels of promotion and communication with your attendees. And then on site, we have a check-in app that actually pings people in the room, like your sales lead, saying, "Hey, somebody just showed up," but also kind of connects with badge printing, a guest app, as well as all the post-event follow-up. So, it's an end-to-end marketing experience. Certainly, we're used for lots of workflow of an event. But traditionally, as I said, it's all the stuff that drives the right people into the room. I guess the most important thing I can say here is that it's not usually for our clients, at least, it's not the most people in the room. It's the right people in the room that matter. So that's what we do.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. So how should your software be used versus how is it being used by companies? Is there any disconnect there? Do you wish that you have 35 features, let's say, do you wish that they would use these more than the others? They're not optimizing it as best as they should. Like, what's that look like?
What a great question.
There, or they use it right?
I mean, that's like my favorite question I think I've ever been asked on any podcast. I'm telling you, man, that was a great question.
Cool.
Where to begin? I think the one that really comes to mind is that people believe that design is just kind of table stakes or just kind of as easy, I suppose. I think the thing that I wish more companies did, and certainly there's a lot of companies that do this with Splash, but I wish more companies really tagged in their designer in a significant way. I mean, our CMS is meant to be infinitely flexible. It's meant to be like so on brand that it never even close to feels like Splash. And while, that's a great thought, if you're not tagging in your designer and really getting them in the mix, you're going to be using our defaults, right? You're going to be using the things that does look a little bit like Splash. And so, I really wish our clients, or I should say, many of our clients that aren't using their designers in a significant way, I really wish they were, because, our design capabilities are second to none.
Well, given that, have you made a suite of tools to help someone's designer so that they, is there any way you can take some of the legwork out of the designs of all these things? I guess templates would probably help. They could just, put in their tweaks in them. But have you designed the software in that way that helps people, designers?
Well, I would say so. Look, I think our themes are a great beginning, and we offer the ability to start from scratch or to start with one of our custom made themes, which really kind of, give you the right answer when you begin. But look, man, and certainly, we have great, integrations with stock footage, right? So, but like nice stuff like out of Unsplash or with Giphy, so you can pull in really nice content. And we even have like great defaults when it comes to copy. So look, I think I'm leading the horse to water. If not that, then we also have an education team and a training team that really, gets you off your feet and teaches you the software. We have a whole LMS course if you wanted to learn how to design better pages. We also produce content. We also throw out, Hall of Fame pages, so like the best pages, so you can get some inspiration. So net, look, it's definitely, we can always be doing more to explain, how to design a great end-to-end event experience or a guest flow. I have no doubt we could kind of level that up. But to answer your question, I still, nevertheless, you got to have a great designer on staff. I think that's, or at least involve your designer in kind of the creation of these templates in a significant way and iterate with that designer. No matter how good of an answer we can provide, nothing replaces your brand voice. And I think that's an important thought that as you, to answer your original question about, what's the delta between what I want and what is happening.
Yeah, and also something you said earlier, you want the right people at your event, hordes of people. So do you see that people that use the software, they're like as many people to come as possible, or do they have the right focus? Like they're trying to identify certain people to come?
Well, that's a really good question as well. I think what you're alluding to is like, what are the use cases of our software, and are those always totally deliberate? And the answer is no. They're not always totally deliberate. We have a lot of ticketed events, a lot of what I would say like festivals. We have a lot of field marketing events that, I'd say we're about a year away from really nailing that part of the software. But so it's cool to see where the users lead it. All right, we have a freemium product, so anyone right now could sign up and host, their bar mitzvah or their birthday party on it. But nevertheless, we don't necessarily architect it for the perfect bar mitzvah. It's a blessing and a curse to have such a large user base who are experimenting and trying things out. It gives a lot of interesting insight into where the market is going, but it also, as I think you're alluding to, makes it challenging to build for that or to educate or organize around that.
Yeah, so I mean, since you have a wide user base, the advice you'll give, or I'm going to ask you for, I know you don't want it to be too generic, but maybe for a couple of silos, what kind of advice can you give? Let's say I want to put on a corporate event versus a, like a party or a bar mitzvah versus a trade show. Any advice for those three types of scenarios that would help people using your platform?
What a great question again, but this is a harder question than in the past. My best advice for kind of our best use case, I think, is firstly understanding the intention of your event and defining what is the type of event you're throwing. So mostly what our product is used for are events where you're trying to get the right people in the room, and typically they're either recruits or they're sales targets or existing clients, people that you're trying to sell things to or engage with. And often that means that you need to convince them to come to the event. And so what I strongly recommend is really thinking about every minute before the event as an opportunity to convince them to attend. And by the way, that's even a really important thing to think about after they've RSVP'd. Sometimes people, actually we know about 3/4 of the people that RSVP don't attend. And so even after they've RSVP'd, how do you convince them to actually show up? And the way to do that is to plan out a thoughtful cadence leading up to the event. And I often will say that, you want to personalize that cadence. You want to think about who you are prioritizing so that you can create very, actually reach out with custom personalized reach out. What else do you want to do? You want to make it urgent. You want to show that many other people, want to create some social clout, so show that many other people are also attending. You really have to kind of drive home the fact that this is worth their time. And even ask directly for a commitment is actually a pretty strong move. So I guess net, I would really recommend thinking through that entire cadence. And what's cool about our software is it helps you do that. It helps you save that and helps you automate it. It helps you iterate on it after you're finished thinking it all the way through and after you've even tested it out. So that's really what our software does, is help you kind of own and hone that cadence of convincing people to attend.
Yeah, so does it offer suggestions that are timed? Let's say like I'm going to throw a Christmas party, and I use your software and I put in the date of the Christmas party. Will it say to me like 3 weeks out, hey, now's a good time to remind the guests that you're going to have pumpkin pie, let them know so they'll be excited to come, or now's the time to let them know it's 1 week out, remind them so they don't forget, and tell them there's free parking on the street or something, or that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's a great example of something you can do with our product that we see a lot of our clients do. That's exactly right.
Okay. Oh, that's good. Do you see that people need help in doing their events successfully? Like, are they a mess, or are they pretty good and this just makes them better? Like, in what state do your clients come to you when they use your software?
You can edit out this pause for 1 sec. So when clients come to us, we find that there's a varying range of sophistication on how to automate, how to operationalize, how to even produce the event in their event program. I would say right now, about a quarter of the clients that show up on our doorstep, ready to sign for their piece of software and begin their journey with Splash, about a quarter of them are what I would call sophisticated. I would say about 3/4 of them are somewhere in between totally new and beginning their journey of event sophistication and optimization. And so really, at the very early stages, we try to do a deep discovery as to like, where are you at? What have you automated? What have you operationalized in your business? And, where do we potentially need to bridge that gap? It's been a really interesting experience for me because the industry is actually super huge and super old. I mean, we were talking about an industry where we're talking about a $565 billion industry, and events have been thrown since the dawn of time. But as such, people aren't always as sophisticated with the newest technology around it. And, often people just kind of assume that they're not predictable or assume that they can't be digitized. And so they don't invest in it. Whereas, you've seen kind of paid advertisement or, digital marketing, video marketing. It's a little more formed in this digital era than even events. I think we are in the dawn of a new era here. I'm very excited about, being able to be building tech in 2018 for events. But it's often an uphill battle.
Anything you're seeing that is a really cool way to remind people that seems to work really well? Like text messages, really effective, or just emails, or, just a continual reminder schedule using different media. Anything you recommend that you see really works well?
Certainly all of the above is great. I think that the best stuff that I am seeing is very ultra specific. And usually it has to do with who else is attending or speaking. Those are the messages that actually get the highest click-through rate, the digital display ads that actually drive the most value. And then you can create an automated outbound email from your sales team, encouraging them to come to meet or see X person. That's where you're going to see just the best outcome, the best conversion. But, I would say that just kind of thinking about that cadence again, just really thinking it through. What is all of the lead up cadence to your event? We see that frequency and urgency are two really important things to focus on as you think about reminding and driving attendance. So I'd highly recommend focusing on those things.
Okay, then maybe an example, like what's the most audacious event you've ever seen put on, and what happened and what were some of the metrics?
Yeah, well, I don't know the metrics actually. Oh, back in the day. So I'd say my event is, the events I throw are the most audacious. One time I threw a mystery flyaway to Jamaica with 150 tastemakers, members of the press, and sweepstakes winners. They landed in Montego Bay. They didn't know where they were going. And after getting off the plane, they had 2.5 days of experiencing Jamaica with crazy parties, one of which ended up in a off-Broadway play called The Junket and a book also by the same title. So yeah, I'd say that was probably the craziest amount I've ever seen and thrown.
I guess to be invited to one of your events would be a really cool thing, it sounds like.
Hey, I do my best out here. Do my best.
Very cool. Excellent. So what kind of events, your software can work with all kinds of events. Are there certain kinds that it's more amenable to and certain ones maybe that are more fringe, or could it be anything? I mean, what do you recommend for people listening that want to put on an event, and they're considering your software? What's the first step, or, are they throwing the right kind of party, for instance?
Sure.
For event.
Well, look, I think a really good question to ask whenever you're beginning the process of thinking through your event program is, why does our business throw events? And to ask it in that way, what is the business reason for you to throw events? Is it some percentage net new? Is it some percentage existing? Is it some percentage brand and impressions? Is it some percentage getting your team excited? Is it some percentage recruitment? What is the goal here? What is the intention here? Candidly, once you start there, if there is a goal, if there is an outcome that is measurable, that is the type of event that I think we do really well with. I would say that, if you want to throw a kind of birthday party or something that is a little bit more personal or kind of blue sky, we got a great piece of software and you can use it for that and it'll make your event look super duper awesome. I have no doubt. But that's not going to be the full value of our suite. And I would say that kind of ROI. If you got ROI and you got intention behind that and purpose behind it, we got a hell of a piece of product for you.
How powerful are events? Either it's a corporate event or a party or, I don't know, a meet and greet, whatever it is. Like, what have you seen it do for businesses and brands?
Oh, man. I mean, so I can answer that question in many ways. The data-oriented way, kind of, do events drive value? We've just run a Harvard Business Review study, which would indicate some over 75% of the marketers who answered said that it was their most effective marketing channel. Not their most efficient always. Sometimes, events are expensive, but it is the most effective. So there is a numbers answer to what you just said. There's also certainly an anecdotal answer. I mean, I've overseen the creation and deployment of millions now of events on our platform and personally. Heck, man, I've seen people get married after events. I've seen $1 million deals get signed at events. I've seen people be hired at events. I've seen people be fired at events. I've seen teams come together. I've seen startup ideas happen at events. It's hard to think of a thing that I haven't seen happen as a result of an event. And, for that reason, I'm obsessed with the concept of ritual, of ceremony, of gathering. I'm obsessed with the idea of people creating memories together, of kind of the social psychology and the focus that it takes to build and to host and to experience a great event. Look, these aren't just events. These are culminations of our business, right? These are launches. These are kind of the celebrations of what we are doing as any organization. And the end results of them, in a lot of ways, are hard to calculate. But that's the work that we're doing over here. We're trying to make them more predictable. So, in a word, I've seen a lot happen from events, and I've dedicated my life to it. It's been my life's work so far.
No, that's great. Everyone talks about us being in a digital age, and everyone's face is like buried in their cell phone, and people are texting and all this other stuff. So to me, it seems like physical presence at an event is super important because it's now so different from how a lot of people interact. I think people really crave physical interaction in person. But what's your perspective on it? What do you see? Is it super important nowadays, or what do you think?
The highest rates of depression, the highest rates of loneliness. And we're also in an era of software and big ticket purchases, technology purchases especially. But we're in an era where business relies on trust, as well as in an era where people rely on in-person interactions to give them happiness. I think we are in a time where, we're in the era of the highest depression rates, suicide rates, loneliness rates that we've ever seen. And a lot of it has been attributed to the kind of online community, online presence of so many of our youth and people who are graduating college and professionals today. It's a really scary time, really, for technology. And for that reason, as you can tell, I'm really passionate about the in-person experience. I think it creates more focus. In a moment, it gets people to pick their heads up and really look and listen and really dial into what is happening. It brings them into the now. And it also creates, an opportunity to build trust between people who either work together or who want to work together. And as we take on these huge problems, these huge business problems, as well as these huge national and world problems, we're going to need to focus and we're going to need to cooperate and collaborate. And I've seen events work miracles in those arenas. So yeah, it's a really, really important time to be focused on real life. So that's what we're doing.
All right, well, that's great. So what's the best way for organizations and people that want to put on events to get in touch? And you said it's a freemium of your product, so where should they go to download it and check it out?
You can just sign right up. So we're at splashthat.com. So splash like jumping in a pool, and not this, but that. So splashthat.com. You can follow us on Twitter at splashthat, or you can follow me on Twitter. I'm benny.event. And yeah, just go check it out. It's a free product. If you want to just try it out for an event or several events, you can use it for any event you want to throw. And then once you want to start to integrate and build out your data and operations, that's when we level you up to the enterprise, the business model. So I'd recommend just going to sign up. It's a hell of a piece of product we've built, and it's only getting better.
That's great. Well, Ben, thanks for coming. I appreciate you being on the podcast.
Mitch, thanks for the time. I really appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
You have been listening to Almost Here, Around the Corner Future Technology podcast with Richard Jacobs. Subscribe to this podcast, post a review to discover more future technologies that are poised to transform our lives for better or worse, such as Bitcoin, artificial intelligence, 3D printing, blockchain, virtual reality, and more.